Welcome to News with a View, a Fat Cat production. My name is John A. Costa. Today's podcast is on August 26th, 2025, and this is episode 122. For anyone that is new here, it's a conservative-leaning podcast, but I will look at both sides of an argument here, an issue, a ruling, a thought, an action, and how it affects, each political party. Today we're going to try to keep it a little slow, a little simple. Just going to do three things. One is by an article by CNN who said Trump versus Pritzker, which is the governor of Illinois, a political feud that could trigger a major national crisis. No, won't do that, but we'll go on. Second one, it's a big one. This is what I predicted. I tried to look for my clip when I said this, but court throws out lawsuit by Trump administration against all Maryland's federal judges. Remember, this was filed by Trump June 25th, 2022. And the courts have now said, yeah, no, you can't do that, Trump. And I said that when he did it, that it would almost be contrary. I couldn't see how an appeals court would even allow such an action to take place or even kick the idea around. And the third issue, Trump announces they're going to be brought down. Trump vows to go after Biden's advisors. And now that's a biggie because, as I said before, Trump can't go after the people with pardons, but he can go around the people that surrounded the pardoned people and question them, and which could lead to being questioned, those advisors being questioned in a court or in front of Congress. So that's a biggie. That's a biggie. So we'll discuss that. Now, this Trump versus Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, over Trump's insinuating that he may send troops to Chicago, National Guard troops, to help or even take over the policing actions in that city due to the increase in crime rate. And CNN, in their article, said that this is the same tensions fundamental to the American system of governance that were stirred at notable moments of U.S. history, for instance, in the run-up to the Civil War and around federal enforcement of civil rights. And this is, again, the federal government infringement into the state, which they can do, but in very limited circumstances. And this is one of them. This is one of them. The president can make the argument and cite the crime rate in many major cities as a reason to use National Guard troops to enhance the police or to act as the police or take over police in the cities that he deems and necessary. But he would also have to show that local government was either unable or unwilling to enforce the laws of those cities, as such, putting citizens in harm's way with the state's or the local government's failure to provide adequate police protection. That in itself could be a huge hurdle. But using crime statistics and showing that they've gone up, they could scream all they want. Hey, the murder rate went down. We had 650 murders instead of 612. So we're getting better. But then it's all the ancillary crime rates and how they are being reported. And what will happen if, let's say in this case, if say Governor Pritzker would challenge the federal authorities' right to invoke the National Guard deployment, the governor would have to cite and show that crime is down in, say, Chicago, and the police would have to concur with this finding. So he'd get there and goes, here's the police, here's this, the commissioners, blah, blah, blah. Crime rate's down. We don't need the federal government coming in here and ordering National Guard troops. They're not federal troops, they're National Guard troops. Into the city. But in that same token, Trump would then be able to say, show me those statistics. And he could line people up to say that this is not the case, that you're underreporting crime. And so if you're not reporting muggings and break-ins and assaults and subway jumpers and people who break windows or start fires, if you're not reporting that, but those are still crimes on the books, you're just not reporting them. This would be an embarrassment to those democratic cities and would show that Trump was absolutely correct. So the Democrats better watch what they do and tread lightly. Because this will go right into Trump's wheelhouse. This will go right into him saying, I am tough on crime. And if local government is unable or unwilling to protect you, I'm going to step in and I'm going to protect. And I'm going to secure, and I'm going to make America great one city at a time. And it will be hard for the Democrats to push him off that. Now, New York, he said he could do that in New York too, but I think New York, Eric Adams in Manhattan would take the steps necessary to say, hey, we're stepping up crime. We're going after, the little criminals that end up creating large crimes. And I said this before. Do you think that any of these people that push people in front of subways use their Metro cards to get down the steps? Hold it. Let me get my Metro card out and swipe it. And a little gate open, I could walk through. You think that? Yeah, I don't think so. I would actually put a monetary bet out there that none of those people used a Metro card to get them onto that train platform. And in New York, in New York City, they now put like the train conductors at the top of the stairs in Penn Station and the police, and you have to show your ticket before you're allowed to go down onto at least the Long Island Railroad and probably Amtrak. The subways, I don't think they give a crap. But they don't, they don't. I've seen that for years. 10 years ago, in the morning, you just see these people jump over the turnstile, and that was it. The cops looking, and they shrug their shoulders. Go, well, I'm not doing anything about that. So I think that going after the low-level criminals will prevent a possible major criminal event. And as such, it's a good idea for them to do. Criminal's a criminal, right? We all say that. We all feel that way. We're all on board with that, right? And you could say, well, they should be going after, high-profile cases or, people that hurt people. Well, that person went onto the subway. Okay, granted, they didn't hurt anyone getting onto the subway, but then they pushed someone in front of the subway. Or they robbed them, or they harassed them, or attacked them, or raped them, or set them on fire. So, yeah, how about, you get a cut, what do? You clean it, and put medicine on it, put a Band-Aid on it, because that little nick could turn into a very bad infection. Well, that's what low-level criminals are. And you have to stop the infection. That's simple. And you go after people that break into cars. You go after people that urinate in our streets and use our streets as a bathroom. And you could scream and yell all you want. Well, they have no place to go. Yeah, they do. There's shelters set up all over the city. In California, one of the most liberal states there are, it's now said being homeless is a crime, so they could arrest you. Now, are they doing that? No, but they're at least saying, well, it's a law. Well, if you don't enforce the laws that you have, then then of course crime rate's going to go down because you're not enforcing it. Nothing to report, right? You understand where I'm going with this? If governors fight Trump on this, he might not win it, but he will embarrass you to the point to say that you're ineffective. That, you're ineffective. You're saying you're going to do something about it and you're not. And you lied. And the minute he can prove that is that then he turns around and goes, this is why I wanted to do it, or this is why I have done it. And if he wins it and goes into these cities like he did in Washington, where he had the right to do that, and people are hailing that I could walk down the street. My car didn't get broken into. I could carry my pocketbook. I don't have to run for cover. No murders. Even if all this just saves 10 people in 10 weeks or a month, don't you think that's worth it? No one had their rights taken away from them. If anything, they had their rights validated. I have the right to walk down the street and not be attacked, or not having my car broken into, or a carjacking, or a beating, or a mugging, or my store robbed. That's my right too, right? So this is enhancing and validating those rights. And if you have a problem with that, then you are a criminal. Because only a criminal would react to this. Not someone, I'm standing up for the Constitution. I'm doing. No, you're not. No, you're not. So stop all this fake, indignation. Stop it. Because Trump's going to go after crime. Because it's something that he can have an immediate effect on. And you people just don't understand that. And when I say you people, I'm talking about Democrats that are in power, not everyday normal Democrats or everyday normal Republicans or non-voters or conscientious non-voters. I just heard that word the other day. So, everyone just, I want to have food. I want a roof over my head. I want to have a little spending money. I want my family safe. You can't tell me a Democrat doesn't want their family safe, or to have a job, or to provide. I won't buy that nonsense. They want the same thing we all want. To be able to go outside, to at least have the perception that I'm going to be safe, that my family's going to be safe, that the police will act in a manner to protect us. And that goes beyond political boundaries. That's a common right we all have. So you can't be against being anti-criminal. I'm anti-criminal. And you could say, well, criminals have rights too. Well, they don't have the right to be a criminal, because that's what makes them a criminal. When they're caught and everything, they do have the rights that a citizen has. But they don't have a right to rob me. So I think Democrats, you have a tough uphill battle here. And those crime rates and these crime things that are happening in Chicago and were happening in Washington, D.C. weren't manufactured. Those were absolutely the truths. And you're having a lot of people now stepping up and going, it's a lot safer. Like businesses, we're seeing more people coming to our restaurants. We see more people going out on the streets. So I think you Democrats who keep listening to the wrong people, and I don't understand what you're doing. I don't understand your logic of just being anti-Trump. You're going to find out that Trump is going to go to easy reach places, low-hanging fruit. Crime is a low-hanging fruit. You could do something about it. I apologize for this. Today is a particularly bad day for me. And like I said, I really do not like taking over-the-counter medication because it does affect my blood pressure and my heart and everything else. And yes, they have medication out there that says it doesn't, but it does. At least with me, it does. So I don't do that. All right. So we see CNN who's saying that this is like the Civil War. and the civil rights movement. All right. You could make that analogy. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I think it's not even on the scale of that. But I guess you could. You know, a drop of water can drown you. Yes, if there were, 60,000 drops in a bucket and my head was in it, yeah, okay. Yeah, a drop of water can drown you. Okay. Want to use that logic? All right. This is a big one. This is court throws out lawsuit by Trump administration against all Maryland federal judges. And when Trump proposed that lawsuit, it was because the Maryland courts allowed the waiting period for deportations and wouldn't allow Trump to just come in there, grab people, and mass deport with at least not a 72-hour window or whatever, 3-day window, whatever it was, non-weekend, but whatever. And I said, Trump doing what he was going to do would not hold up. And it's exactly what had happened. The court ruled. So at issue is the lawsuit was an order by the chief judge of the Maryland District Court that stopped the immediate deportation of migrants, challenging their removal. The Justice Department said the automatic pause impeded the president's authority to enforce immigration laws. And I go, not really. Does it impede? Yes. Does it stop? No. The Maryland judges, who were represented by prominent conservative lawyer Paul Clement, argued the suit was intended to limit the power of the judiciary to review certain immigration proceedings while the Trump administration pursued a mass deportation agenda. So the lawyers represented by the judges, which they didn't need representation because judges were already immune. But we'll get to that later. And what, as I said, judges have qualified immunity. Funny how they allowed that for themselves, but not for the police. In their finding, the administration lacked the legal authority to bring the suit, but the judges were also immune from it. As I said, instead of suing the administration should have appealed the chief judge's order, calling that a tried and true recourse available to all federal litigants. Meaning Trump should have taken this right to the Supreme Court and asked for an immediate response. Now, Trump didn't want to do that. Because if he lost it, then he's got nothing. Him losing it in Maryland is just going to affect Maryland. Remember, the Supreme Court handed that down, that you could only do in your respected areas. But what it also does do, even though he lost it in Maryland, you could try to cite that in Nevada. You could do that in California. You could use that and say, hey, the courts have ruled on this in other jurisdictions using the same logic we're using against the same actions that the government's doing. So it's hard to say how that would work out, but that's the logic. And one branch's alleged infringement on another's exclusive power does not license a constitutional free-for-all. The judge had, the judge presiding over this had said that you just can't come in and wipe out legal precedent, which is what I had said in another podcast, that I think that, huge overreach. You had another avenue to go, and you didn't exercise it, and you should not. You didn't have the authority to do what you did in trying to execute the suit in this manner. So Trump lost a big one, and then the White House said, "Well, we're going to look at it and see." I got no comment right now. So this is a kind of blow for President Trump. And again, I still think with this that people that have the orders to go, that they could, they've lost their ability to appeal it and stuff, for whatever reason. And there's a lot of them. Out you go. But other people might have that window of opportunity to argue it, argue their case. And again, remember, immigration is a civil matter. It's not a criminal matter. So the laws are different. And they kind of get a little murky because most times in a civil case, you can't be arrested unless you did something criminal. Yet ICE can hold you. That's why they're called detention centers and not jails, because you are being detained. I know that's a thin line. I get that, and, but words do matter. And the courts have already ruled that Trump can do this, and Biden did it, and Obama did it, and Bush did it, and Clinton did it. They all did it because it was permissible under the law. What wasn't totally apparent, and no one wanted to push it, was, can I just grab someone? You can't prove that you're here illegally or legally. You can't prove why you're even here. Can I just pick them up and throw them out? Now, I said when people were coming over the border and they were caught in the desert and they just came over the border over there, I thought that under the law, you should have been able to take them and tell them, go back that way. Because they had no status here. Now, if you're here for 10 years, I might argue the point that they do have some type of status here. And as such, they might have the 3-day, or they have the right, to seek an attorney right away and try to get some hearing. There's not enough attorneys. The way Obama and Biden worked it is he flooded so many people in here, you couldn't possibly have the judges, the lawyers, or anyone else. You just couldn't do it. Even if the defendant here said, I have the money to pay a lawyer, and then file and do that, uh, it would be almost impossible for the courts to keep up with it. And this was by design. This was by design, that the only possible solution was they stay. And we figure out how they can become citizens. Not that they automatically become citizens, but they get a status and then can go from there. And Trump goes, no, they could have done that from day one, and they didn't. So that's gone. And this is the argument, this is the conundrum that everyone is facing. And we haven't heard a secondary plan other than toss them out. Now, if the courts go, hey, you can toss them out, well, now you got a plan, and it's legally binding. Once the Supreme Court rules, that's it. There's no appeal. It's done. And that's why a lot of times you don't want to go there. Because as strong as your case might be, there might be an if or an is in there that gives it a whole different meaning. And you lose it. And like I said, once you lose it, you lost it. They're not going to hear it again. Not for years and years and years. So, you want to get this right. And if you can't get it right, you want to get it legal. Because that's the best thing you could do. But I said that Trump taking this route was, I mean, instead of taking an exit ramp, he tore the whole road up. That was his, and could he do it? Yes. Should he have done this like that? No. But this was just, hey, you never know. Right now, I didn't have it. I'm pushing it, and so if they turn me down, it's still the same thing that's happening, and I haven't gained anything. I haven't lost anything. I don't know. I don't know if that's his thinking with this, but that was just bad. That was not the way to go, and I'm surprised it took till now for them to reach that conclusion that, yeah, no bueno. No bueno. And, if you listen to my podcasts, I said 80% of the things that Trump wants to do will be hold up in court. It's the 20% of the stuff that he wants to do that is going to be a court challenge. And I say of the 100% of things that he wants to do, he'll only be allowed to do 80%. And these other 20% of his, executive orders and will be, unconstitutional. You can't do it. So, but I think the big one coming up in September or October will be birthrights. And I'm still leaning into the 55% range that Trump will win that. With the arguments I heard presented so far in the case, and where they, calling them back to hear more, I'm sure. I'm sure. This is not just going to be, well, yeah, you gave your 15 minutes, each side gave their 15 minutes dissertation on it. No. I think the justices will want to hear, more. And that they're using this book, which I'm sure they all know by heart, to see what was the intent of it and what has been done afterwards. And that's very important. That's legal precedent. But they can also turn around and go, yeah, we know what was done before, and that was just bad law. They made bad decisions there. And yeah, we wouldn't have come to the same conclusion today. And so this is our ruling. And as it stands right now, I think Trump has a good chance of winning that argument. And that would be a game changer. A true game changer. If he loses it, it's not a game changer. It's just what we've been doing since whenever. But if he wins it, yeah. And like I said, I have lots of questions on it, and a lot of feelings on it. While this is all going on, I wish they would talk about of a way to get these people to become a status and then being able to apply for citizenship, not just get it. I know, some of the things I said might have sounded like I said, just give it to them. They're here, give it to them. No, that's not what I was meaning, or if it came out that way. What I'm saying is that they're here, they have roots. A weed will have roots. I get the idea. They should. I put crabgrass preventer because I don't want roots to take hold. And no one applied the proverbial crabgrass killer or preventer at our borders, and now we have weeds that have roots. Much harder to take care of, much harder to do. But there is a means, and there are scenarios that you could use to say, get these people registered, and if you came here illegally and you're here and you can't, you can prove you've been here for, let's say, 10 years. We'll use 10 years as the benchmark. Maybe 12, because we'll go back to any time when Obama took over. Just as a time frame. And if you could prove that you were here before Obama, you could fill out this paperwork if you do not have a criminal history or, nothing bad. I'm not saying even, if you had a DUI, you didn't hurt anyone, you just, and you paid your fine, you did your 30 days in jail, blah, 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 and you haven't had an incident since that time, and then you're square with the house. Now, if you robbed someone or hurt someone or stole, it's a little bit different. You got caught shoplifting once. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put you in a 6-year orbit. And if in those 6 years you're working and you don't have, you're not breaking the law of any major consequence. A speeding ticket is not a law. If you're driving recklessly, maybe, spell that all out. You can have that all hammered out in there, No one's saints. No one here is a saint. Not expecting them to be saints, but I also don't expect, to have, well, they robbed a store, or they did this, or they hurt this person, they beat this person, they beat their wife up, or, hurt people. You're out. You're automatically out. You're gone. No appeal, no nothing. You are out. And if you want to fight it, then we're going to charge you as a criminal. And then you're going to go through the system, and I can guarantee you, you won't like that. So we can charge you with the crime, and then we'll hold you. You could stay here in a jail, or you could vamonos back over the border, and you can never come back here. If you do, bad things will happen to you. But people that don't have any problems like that, or people like that, you put them in a 3-year orbit and give them a status to work here and stuff. And once they complete that, and then they do that, and then they can apply for citizenship, and then their children and all that are then grandfathered into that, and you're a citizen. But you make some type of mechanism just saying they all have to go. Well, they all have to go because the system doesn't allow for any other means. And honestly, it's true. The system does not have any other mechanism in there for them to stay. The idea of having a parole status, or a protection status, or anything that wasn't in our laws. That wasn't in doing it for the most part. Now, there are some protection things in there that, are law. But they're not enough to hang your hat on. And most of those people wouldn't qualify for that. And I said the people that should be able to qualify for those type of protections are Cubans. Who had an active regime in our hemisphere that was against the people. I could see that. Haitians, no. You have a government over there. South Americans, no. You have a government over there. They say they're a democracy. They say that, this is, there are only a handful of people that I would give citizenship to, or not citizenship to. I would give them protected status. Yeah, most of these people are not in the protected status thing. So that's what's going on with that. We kind of got off subject though, but Trump loses that case big time. That suit is tossed. And he can go file now the other way, but yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to have to pursue another avenue, and that you kind of soured the milk here, and not going to work. The third thing, Trump vows to go after Biden and advisors. And this is what I had said from the beginning when Biden issued all the pardons to everyone. That you will not be able to go after these people unless it can be proved that the pardons were not authorized by Biden and, with the auto pen. I mean, you'd have to prove that, and most of these people will be long gone by that point, and there'll be 2 or 3 other administrations in there. So it'll be a non-issue. But what he can do, and when I say he, I'm talking about the Department of Justice. And they can go after the people that do not have a pardon. And they can question them. And again, as I say whenever I talk about this, if you try to mislead a federal investigator, you have committed a crime. Yeah. And if you do it in such a way that you're trying to work in collusion with someone, that's a big crime. But even if you go, listen, I didn't want to get him in trouble, so I'm sorry. You're going to go to jail for at least a year, if not longer. And that's going to be big boy jail. It's federal. So the people that they're going to be asking these questions to, they're always allowed to exercise their Fifth Amendment right and not speak until, they have a lawyer to advise them, which would be what I would do. But once they have the lawyer and once they have everything and the lawyers work out, okay, what are you going to be asking my client? No, he's not going to answer that. He's not. No. And they'll get people to go, listen, I'll talk to you, but I want immunity. And you can give me the immunity on whether or not, if I made a false statement, if I lied to you, if I do that, then the immunity's gone. I'm fine with that. Because I'm not going to lie to you and I'm not going to mislead you. I just want to be protected. And if all you want are answers to your questions, and you can't go after these people, then, that's fine. So this is what I said he would do, that he would go after these people and try to snare in the people that do have pardons to say, yeah, I admit that I did that, but you can't do anything to me about it. And what they want to get those people on the stand to go, no, I'm going to exercise my Fifth Amendment right. And then the government gets to peel that back and go, no, we're not trying to convict you. We just want to know, did you say this? Did you do this? Did you act in this manner? Was this your deliberate action to do something that without the pardon you would be convicted or we would charge you with. We're not charging you with anything. We just want to know if this was the truth. And as such, you don't need the Fifth Amendment rights because you already have it. But you have the protection of that you can't be incriminated. So it's a smart way they're going about it. It's the same way I would go about it. Go after the small fish to get to the big fish. In the meantime, I could be a shark, but I'm not after the guppy. I'm after the whale. So, all right, with that, I'm going to say good night. I'll have this show up here in a little while, probably by about 5. Give to a charity. Make sure it's a charity. That is a real charity. Don't become a victim helping a victim. If you can, give to a food bank. They need more than just food, so you can ask them. But bring toilet paper. You could bring paper plates, feminine products, baby products. It's just, food is nice and food is great, but they need more than that. And a food bank is a great way to go. Say a prayer. Prayer does work. And with that, I'm just going to fade to black and end both shows. So, good night, and we'll catch you later. Please, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. I need subscribers. If you like the show, subscribe. If you don't, subscribe and tell me how bad I am. I appreciate that. Kidding, I have kids. All right, I'll catch you later. Bye.